Welcome everyone, this is Kerjims channel. Now we are back to our episodes of two similar champions and comparison featured by Wild League of Legends versus the Mobile Legend Bang Bang. But before that, please like and subscribe to my channel and don't forget to click the bell icon so you will be notified to our new next episode video. Let's do this!
Fueled by corrupted magic, Lissandra is the ice witch of the Freljord and plots to unleash a new ice age upon the world. She is a nimble, high-utility mage with an array of crowd control abilities, crushing and impaling her foes in any solo lane. With spells of black ice, Lissandra is a strong contributor to any teamfight and can always keep her enemies at a distance. Iceborne is Lissandra's passive, giving her an occasional free spell cast. Each time one of her abilities hinders an enemy's movement, Iceborne's cooldown is reduced by 1 second for each enemy affected. Ice Shard sends out a spear of ice that damages enemies in its path and slows the first unit hit. If Ice Shard hits an enemy, the projectile shatters and travels farther than it would otherwise. Players looking for consistent damage output should always max this ability first. Ring of Frost damages and freezes enemies in place around Lissandra. Since the ability has no cast time, she won't stop to cast Ring of Frost while moving. However, enemies frozen in place are still able to attack or cast abilities. Glacial Path sends an ice claw flying in target direction, dealing magic damage to enemies in a line. By reactivating the ability, Lissandra can teleport to the claw's location at any point along the path. While the claw is in motion, she can attack and cast spells freely. Lissandra's ultimate, Frozen Tomb, can be cast on either enemy champions or herself. When cast on an enemy, the champion is stunned and the ground beneath them freezes and expands outward, damaging and slowing enemies in the area. When cast on herself, Lissandra becomes invulnerable and untargetable for the duration, while the ice stems from her position. Ice Shard is an essential tool for establishing early dominance with Lissandra. She can aim it through minions to pressure her opponent from a safe distance. Especially when facing melee champions, Ring of Frost can lock opponents in place for an easy hit with Ice Shard when they get too close. Glacial Path is extremely valuable for following up with ganks. By using Ice Shard to slow Zed just as Vi comes into view, Glacial Path allows Lissandra to keep up even after he flashes away, and she lands a second Ice Shard for the kill with Ignite. Although Glacial Path is key for escaping, it's important to note that if Lissandra is disabled, she won't be able to teleport. This is where Ring of Frost comes in handy, as it's great for creating distance from pursuers. When being chased, Lissandra can use Glacial Path to easily misdirect enemies. Throwing it over the wall here, she misdirects Shaco into following in the direction of the claw. Even if he followed her, she still could have chosen to teleport away. Lissandra is an excellent initiator for ganks and can almost guarantee a kill with her full combo. When roaming to the bottom lane, she closes the gap quickly with Glacial Path, then singles out Nami with Frozen Tomb and Ring of Frost for an easy kill, as Caitlyn escapes with a well-timed cleanse. Lissandra can change the flow of a fight almost instantly. As Shaco approaches, she uses all of her abilities in quick succession to burst and lock him in place, then finishes by reactivating Glacial Path early to hop a short distance and get away cleanly. With Ice Shard's low cooldown, Lissandra is exceptional at kiting enemies over long distances. Lissandra first disengages with Ring of Frost and Glacial Path. As Jax pursues her from the Dragon Pit to the second turret, she lands Frozen Tomb amidst 4 consecutive casts of Ice Shard along the way. Jax makes the mistake of continuing the chase despite being whittled down repeatedly by Lissandra. Finally, he dives her underneath the turret and falls to Ring of Frost plus Ice Shard. With Glacial Path, Lissandra can often set up kills from plain sight. Using Glacial Path into Ring of Frost, she freezes Karthus in place for a follow-up stun from Frozen Tomb. Karthus is locked up long enough for Riven to catch up and get the kill. Although Frozen Tomb is a very destructive spell, it sometimes needs to be used defensively to save Lissandra from heavy amounts of damage. She engages a fight with Glacial Path into Ring of Frost, but takes a lot of counterattack damage. Self-casting Frozen Tomb, she blocks 2 turret shots and damage from Karthus, while still slowing Graze, giving Misfortune a kill. Lissandra complements area of effect team compositions extremely well. As Amumu engages, she hops over the wall with Glacial Path into Ring of Frost and Frozen Tooth, which absolutely eviscerates the enemy team, giving Lissandra a quadra kill. When building Lissandra, focus on a mix of magic damage and durability to support her close-range playstyle. For runes, try Magic Penetration Marks, Scaling Health Seals, Magic Resist Glyphs, and Ability Power Quintessences. Try 2109 Masteries, taking Magic Penetration and Ability Power in offense, with Mana Regeneration and increased neutral buff duration in utility. Flash and Ignite are great choices for Lissandra, allowing her to secure kills and quickly reposition in teamfights.
In your champion pool, I would heavily recommend that you pick her up. She is a decently safe blind pick. She has very great team fighting potential, great pick potential, great ganks, so there is nothing to hate about Lissandra. There's just everything to love. I've had so much fun playing her. So heavily recommend picking her up. So these tips are going to be a little bit different. They're not just going to be the cookie cutter ones. So without further ado, let's jump into Lissandra. Now, the first tip that I think can really help people out that are first picking up the champion is Lissandra is equivalent to a jungler similar to Rek'Sai and Kayn that can have some unique ganking paths where you're able to jump over the wall with your E, and then you're providing so much CC with the kit of the W root and the R stun and the slows. I mean, it's just, she is one of the best premier gankers, I would say, in roamers. So always look to make sure to take advantage of her roaming potential. She has decent dueling potential. You usually are playing her mid lane, so she's going to be at a high level. She should be able to outduel the junglers and really make a huge impact in particularly the bot lane. If you can get that double root off, it can be extremely deadly. And if you have your ults up, it's just, there's no way they're getting out of that without summoner spells if you get a proper flank on them. Yeah, so that will wrap up tip number 1. As always, guys, I'm open to feedback and critique, and if I love the recent trend of people like giving their own tips in the comments down below. I love that. Just kind of building like a weird amalgamation of tips on these 5 tips videos. So make sure to check out the comments. There's usually a few people that are really knowledgeable about the champion as well that are able to help you out and give some different tips, just because I'm a little bit limited in this format of only giving out 5 tips, because I don't want to bore you guys to death with doing an hour video over every single champion. So let's get into tip number 2. You know, actually, guys, we are going to just go over the pathing real quick, because I think it's so important to just see it. I should have just added this on the first one, my apologies. So one of the best ganking paths, I think, when you are on this side would be right here, where you can just kind of sneak behind and grab an E spot over the wall, and then gank the enemy right here. And this is going to just be able to really catch them off guard, because they are not used to getting ganked from behind on this side. And then obviously with this side, you can come from here, and just kind of do the regular path of going through this try and E'ing in there. So with the top lane, it's pretty similar. I'd say getting behind the enemy. If you're on the red side right here, if you're coming to gank the enemy that's over here, you can just E over the wall. It's just kind of very simple paths that are really effective, and that's why Rek'Sai and Kayn are decent gankers, is because they're able to get in great positions. And then again, just with this try, you just get behind them like that or something, or E'ing over the wall like right around here. So yeah, a little bit of an extended tip, but whatever. So for tip number 2, I want to talk about how you should be playing out these team fights. Let's spawn in some of these. So the biggest thing I want you guys to look at it as her new passive. It is so important. This is obviously a level 18 passive, so the damage numbers are pretty insane. But they do 520 with 149 bonus magic. So the scaling isn't terrible. It's not the best. But with the Sandra's kit, sometimes people try and get a huge amount of AoE off. They try and like hit everyone. Well, let's say a class trying to hit everyone with everything, but with this Iceborne Subjugation, you're actually able to snowball teamfights really hard once you get a single kill, because these thralls do so much damage. They're able to slow people down, which is going to be really big. So what you want to do, obviously it's good if you can hit a couple people with your spells, but try and focus one guy out in particular and get those thralls going as soon as possible. because people really don't understand how effective they are in low elo, where they're going to be just really, they might even just be running straight at them at some point. So really try and focus that first person out and get the Lissandra chain going of throwing out those throws at the enemy team. That'll wrap up number 2. Yeah. Alright, let's jump into tip number 3. Now, a really unique part of Lissandra is actually her keystone that she's able to take. There are 2 Aftershock keystone users that are really high up in the meta right now, and those are Galio and Lissandra, and they both are really, like, I think when I was watching the Kespa Cup and some Pro Korean games, it was almost 100% pick ban with those 2 champions. So, what you want to do when you are playing Lissandra is Aftershock is definitely the most important part of your pregame, just setting up your kit. What it allows is you to really become quite tanky, and you pocket damage and even stick around and use the damage portion of the Aftershock if you are in a safe position. Now, how we do this is when you know damage is coming. When you see, a great example would be a Fizz Shark is about to jump on you and the Fizz is jumping in on you. What you want to do is try and get the Aftershock as soon as possible, because it provides you a huge magic resist and armor buff, 120 at huge difference when you are taking damage from the burst. So always make sure to save the Aftershock proc for the burst. The easiest way to do it is just when a melee champion is jumping out, you know, if you say, example, a jungle Kha'Zix is jumping on Aftershock. You can even stick around if you want to do a little bit more damage, but just make sure to use this proc effectively. You do not want to be misusing it by just say, just like a random thing to just kind of keep him. Make sure you're using it as a defensive. This is it has a bit of a longer cooldown, 8 seconds at max rank, so you really want to be using that like that. Is so crazy. Yeah, so just make sure to use it at the most ideal moment. I think this is sometimes what separates the better Lissandra players from just the average Lissandra players is their use of their Aftershock and kind of how they're weaving in autos and everything. So that will wrap up this tip for Lissandra. And again, if you guys have any questions for me about this stuff, I always try to be as interactive as possible, so comment down below if you have any questions. Alright, let's jump into tip number 4. Now, this is going to be rather important with especially newer Lissandra players, is when to use your ult. If you did not know that you could use an ult on an enemy, or you could use a ult on yourself. And it's just 2 different ways to play out the team fights. In general, if you're looking for picks, if it's a small skirmish, it's still able to do damage. If you're looking to engage a 5v5 team fight, it is usually better to as an offensive and keep throwing out damage. But if it's even, or if you're behind, it is usually better to look at the ult as a defensive tool when you are